Well, how's it going, everybody? Roman and Joe back here with Hometown Conversations. It's been a hot minute since we've done one of these things.
Yeah, like a couple months.
Yeah.
July or August.
So the reason we've been away is like twofold for me.
Yep.
Right. So I think the first part of it is we're damn busy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the last, and we're going to try and figure that out as we go forward here. But like when we look back at like going through the summertime, there's baseball, there's weekends, things get away from you really fast in the summer.
2 boys in football this fall.
Yeah. So it's just
school starting, jobs, just all of it.
Yeah, all of it. So I'm curious, what do other families do when it comes time to like pay attention to that kind of stuff? Like, how do they keep track of everything? The best thing we can figure out is that we put together a calendar, or we're at least working on it. Putting a Google calendar together to try to figure out, is this I was going to say, is this normal? But like, how do people find it? So we know that, this kid has football practice tonight. This kid has, band practice or whatever. Like,
well, and I think some of it also comes down to like, where are we? Right. So like if you or one of the older boys is like curious about what might be for supper, and they look at the calendar and they see that I'm at practice with Sam until whatever time. Oh, okay. Well, maybe we're kind of fending for ourselves tonight, or maybe we'll eat later, or whatever the case may be. But you at least just kind of know where the humans are, and then you kind of know how to plan the evening from there.
So one of the things that we've done to try and solve this problem is we've put together, I found on TikTok, of all things, shocker for those regular listeners, shocker. I found a device through Amazon called an Echo Show, but it's a 15-inch screen.
Yep. So like bigger, similarly sized to like an iPad, maybe a little bit bigger, but not as big as like a laptop necessarily, or a desktop.
And it sits on a little stand, and it goes underneath our countertop, or not underneath the countertop, but underneath the cupboards, I guess is the best way to say it.
Just tucks in really nicely right there.
And, of course, everybody is going to text. It isn't a podcast without
notifications,
some sort of notification going off. So that's at least the first. That's one. We can keep a tally going.
Yep.
So we're going to try and there's another one. Two. I expect at least 2 more before we get done on this one. And we might have a kid barge in here too. At least if you see us like doing these things at the screen or at the off camera, it's because it's like, don't come in here. Anyway, we're going to give this thing a shot. And I think we're going to get a Google Calendar together. Maybe people are just smarter than I am, but I can't keep track of where everybody is.
Oh, no, I don't think anybody knows where anyone in their family is at any given time. What's cool about this is it's tied to, we refer to her in our house as A.
Yeah, because
Alexa, because if you say her name, she will start talking.
Yeah, there's one right behind me here, so we're trying to be careful.
So we haven't figured out the calendar portion of this yet, but we just got it. But the other day I was making tacos.
Yes.
I didn't have taco seasoning. And so I said to this lady with the computerized voice, give me a recipe for taco seasoning for 1 pound of ground beef. And options came up on the screen. I clicked the one I wanted, and it stayed right where I wanted it. It didn't disappear. It didn't go away. Like sometimes your phone will just shut off. And so it was like having a recipe on a stand right in front of me as I was at the stove, because it's right to the right of our stove. And I made taco seasoning, and the 10-year-old in the house, who has a particular palate, didn't even notice that it wasn't his normal taco seasoning.
Yeah.
And he would be the one that I would worry about. She also then, when I asked for this recipe, asked if I would like soothing ocean sounds while I cook. And I was like, that sounds lovely.
Yeah.
And she plays music, and she recognizes my face, and she recognizes Roman's face. And so, it's just nice. It's just having a smart device there, not just for the calendar, but for a lot of purposes.
Yeah. So we've made that little upgrade to the kitchen, and hopefully that will help us with keeping track of where everybody is. And not have, at least at a visual glance, you can say, where is everybody today?
Yeah.
So
now we're all of this is part of the conversation of why have we not done a podcast in a while. And yep, we're busy. Everyone's busy. But I think the elephant in the room here is that Roman suffered some severe PTSD over the summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the county fair broadcast did not go particularly smoothly. Like, I think if we would have had some planning behind it, maybe that would have gone a lot easier.
And again,
but
time.
I threw it out. We didn't even know we were doing the county fair until like 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
So we didn't know that for work we were going to be there. And then, we had signed up to do an entire day, which is fine. We had a lot of fun at the fair.
Yep.
I think we talked to a lot of people, which was super cool. But we had this for work. We had this, I'm trying to think of what the name of the company was off the top of my head. I'm now all of a sudden drawing a blank, but they're out of nowhere to Young America, and they
like
the
a pop-up bar.
Pop-up bars.
Pub, P-U-B.
Pop-up
bar.
Yep. So we rented one of those for our booth at the fair.
For business.
And it worked out very well, but it had this little like bar set up, and I thought, God, it'd be really cool. Like one day into the fair, I'm like, we could set up a podcast and do it right here.
Yep.
We can talk about all of the things going on at the fair. We'll talk to people as they walk by.
Interview people as they walk. Live from the McLeod County Fair was the anniversary, so everybody was getting in free. There were people everywhere. It was a great idea. And I loved it.
Yeah, well, you loved it.
We'll get to why in a minute.
I think, when we were putting it together, I didn't think about how you wouldn't be able to hear me out there.
Sure.
And so it started there. I was messing around with these cameras that we use. We have 3 cameras here. There's 3 cameras right in front of us.
Yep.
And they all run on like a Wi-Fi from my phone.
Right.
So I stuck one up on the ceiling, and what it ended up being is like we needed to have them really close to us the whole time. So we're trying to walk around these, cameras, and I'm trying to run the board, and I'm trying to pay attention to everything. And the planning of the show that we had put together, we talked to somebody from the fair board. We talked to random people that walked by. We
knew that the president of the Chamber of Commerce was going to stop by.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some really good pieces in place.
And then I had my 16-year-old sitting just right behind the camera, trying to get me to ask questions and
about food
and whatever. You should talk about this. You talk about it. Yeah, yep. I know. There was just a lot of things going on. And I think from my standpoint, when I'm trying to do the show, when it's just you and me and we've got maybe one other person,
yep,
this podcast is really easy to do. I can run the board. I can run the cameras. It's all pretty easy.
I would just like to take a little segue there for a second. I've joked about this on the show before, that I don't really do anything except show up and talk. But when you say it's easy, like there are cords everywhere. There's a whole like spaceship motherboard full of colors and knobs that you're running. You're making sure that cameras are going. You're making sure the volume is okay. You're right. Like I know the outline of what we're going to talk about, but technically speaking, it isn't necessarily easy.
Yeah.
And then now you take this live to a fair with people, our kids, Wi-Fi, all of it. And me, again, I just talk. Mm-hmm. So now you're trying to manage all of this.
Oh yeah. And it was, we don't have camera people. These things are literally sitting on, here's one camera, there's another. For those of you guys watching on YouTube, here's another camera. Like this just all is kind of, you just pop back and forth, pop, pop, pop. It's great until the person out on the street decides to move. And what I should have done is I should have put a big X on the ground and said, don't move from here.
You think that would have really helped?
No, I don't. I don't think it would have helped very much. So when that happened and I was trying to keep everything together, I looked down at one point and I'm like, we're 5 minutes into this thing and this is already a cluster.
Oh, I'm walking around and I think he's in the middle of talking about things and I just start interviewing, or I turn around and ask him questions and he's already talked about it because I can't hear a word he's saying. My headphones aren't wireless, so I just didn't have them in.
Right. What it comes down to is we probably shouldn't have posted it. Shouldn't have put it online.
It might have been the death of hometown conversations. Yeah, we don't really know.
We should have just buried it and said, this didn't work. The other thing that we had talked about is it was going to be a live broadcast from there.
Yep.
And I mean, there was Wi-Fi there. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say it wasn't, but it wasn't super clear as to how you were going to get the password to get access to it.
Right.
So I paid for Wi-Fi there.
Yep.
And I didn't know until the next day when I got home, I got sent an email saying, here's your password and whatever to log in. So I didn't know how all that was going to put together. It was just, I couldn't log into the Wi-Fi. And I'm like, screw it. So we're not going to do this. We tried 2 or 3 times to go live with the cameras, and the signal out there just wasn't powerful enough to
go live,
to do it. So
I'm going to back up and I'm going to disagree with you on a point. You say we should have not published it or we should have buried it. And this is going to be a long explanation as to why I disagree.
Okay.
We live in a world of social media. We live in a world of snapshots. Everybody looks like the perfect family. Everybody looks like the perfect athlete. Everybody looks like the perfect student, like the perfect pet. You get pictures of these adorable little dogs, never mind that they just pooped on the carpet 2 minutes before.
Right.
And I think that we all can agree that it kind of starts to affect your psyche a little bit. So you and I are just 2 human beings.
Yeah.
We don't have a production studio. We don't have a team of people. We're just 2 people making a podcast. So it's all right if it didn't turn out perfectly and we still threw it out there, because nobody's perfect.
I guess you could look at it that way, and that's fine.
It's human.
It's just,
and I'm going to apologize if
me.
there's noise. My microphone is getting to the point where I'm going to be sitting on the ground. So I apologize if there's noise while I do this. Yeah. But I have to raise that up because I'm like...
I've been watching it fall steady and steady and steady. And
now I'm to the point where like I can hardly breathe because my gut is scrunched up because I'm so far down. So that's better.
Those that are watching on YouTube too are like, she's getting shorter as this thing
If you're not, you maybe just want to watch that first, 11, 12 minutes and just watch me sink.
Yep. You can watch it go by seconds. Going back to being busy.
Yeah.
Do you remember when like we were growing up, and I feel like this was a Gen X thing. Mm-hmm. Our parents kicked us out of the house and was like, go do something, go find something.
Yeah.
And nobody really knew where anybody was.
Nope.
They're just around. And then...
and you either entertained yourself by yourself or with your siblings.
You rode bike
or you hopped on a bike and inevitably knocked on doors.
Yeah.
Found a friend.
Different time. Now we tell us where you are, where you're going.
We track them on their phones. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if that's an invasion of privacy or not, but I just feel like it was different back then.
That's a great question, right? I mean, I think that everybody uses that tool differently. I know parents who will ground their children if they like turn that app off. We track our kids a little differently, but I knew a parent who would ground her daughter, and the daughter's argument was, it drains my battery so fast to have this on. You and I use it as a convenience or maybe a safety measure. I don't check up on our kids multiple times a day. I trust that.
Yeah, I don't look to see where they are. The only time I look to see where they are is if like they haven't answered a text message for a half hour.
Yep.
Then I might go, where are they? And if I find they're at the movie theater, that makes sense. That checks out.
Like when the oldest started driving around town, no big deal, right? Because he's not even a year into driving, but his grandparents and his aunt and uncle and cousins live about a half hour away.
Right.
So we'd kind of, is he back in the car on his way home? Just a safety thing, just a peace of mind. Like, okay, he's still moving, so
yeah,
must be all right driving.
Yeah. I use Find My iPhone as the way to do it. We all kind of share our locations with each other. I find that that's worked out pretty well. Like when I've lost my keys, I've got my air tag that I can find my keys. If somebody drops a phone, you can find it somewhere. So I would kind of use it for that more than anything. But it's been good for that kind of stuff, I suppose, where like you're just checking to see if they've taken off or not.
So the is it invasion of privacy works both ways. I will tell you that last weekend we had the kids with us, and Roman and I needed to go out to the cabin, and the 10-year-old is at that stage where he really enjoys being with me or us, but he also doesn't want to be bored, and so this is a really internal struggle for him, what he's going to do. So we told him we were going to go out to the cabin. We had about half an hour to an hour worth of work, and then we would come home, and he decided to stay home. And he told me a few days later, he's like, oh yeah, you know how you went out to the cabin the other day? Yeah, I saw you got back to town and stopped at Quick Trip. I'm like, okay, like, what did you need there that was so bad that you couldn't just come home? I'm like,
Or we can be sitting at like Muddy Cow or Main Street, and my 16-year-old will like text me like, "Must be nice to have Muddy Cow."
I'm jealous. No, so they're invading our privacy too. So
yeah, so it goes both ways.
Yeah.
That's what I like. I'm curious, does anybody else do that, or did they do it in the past? Do they regret it? Do they still do it? How are you tracking the kids? Are you just like, screw it, bucket, let them go?
Yeah. The other thing along this line of tracking and knowing everything about your kid, my parents had no idea if I was getting an A in every class or an F in every class. Now
I had to bring a report card home, and then they had to know that I had it.
Yeah, but along the way, right? Like report cards, yeah. But I think about, so my son is in 5th grade, and my understanding is effective next year, middle school, there will be no more signing of the homework journal at the end of the day, right? Like all this
glorious
access to information, it's glorious. And I'm like, I'm losing access to all information.
No.
But then there's this online student portal where you can see every assignment that they have or haven't turned in. And I remember my mom saying to me a lot, particularly shortly after I graduated, I just never had to pay attention to you and your brother and grades. You managed it all. You studied when you needed to study. She's like, I never was like, when is this project due?
Yeah.
She's like, I didn't micromanage you guys at all. And you both figured it out. And I think that there's some real quality to that. I think now it's really easy to hop online and see what your kid is doing right or wrong. And then we step in. And now at the same time, that guidance can be really good, especially for some kids. But are we teaching them that someone's always going to swoop in and remind them or help at the last minute? Or, I don't know. I go back and forth about all this access to information that we have. And who is it benefiting really at the end of the day? Now, there are going to be parents out there that are like, well, your kid is very different from mine. I need to know what he's doing. And you're absolutely right?
Yep.
I don't know if I'll check Sam's parent portal all that much. Succeed or fail. If you're not getting your stuff done, get an F. You deserve it.
I don't check their stuff. They got to bring it to me. I get an email that will say like, hey, your lunch funds are low.
Yeah.
They
eat a lot, don't they?
Yeah. Yes. And then I'll get into the parent portal once I figure out what my password is again.
Yep.
And so that's part of the problem. I don't keep track of that stuff. It's up to them to keep track of how good they're doing at school or
that's
not doing
how
at
I
school.
feel. Yep.
They've got to figure out how to, pass.
Because that's life. Once you get down to life, you got to figure out how to finish your tasks at work, and you got to start to hold yourself accountable.
It can go. I understand both sides of it.
Yeah,
so
I do too.
That's just what I've decided to do. Let them figure it out. I think my ex-wife is paying attention to that kind of stuff, but I don't.
No.
I'm like, if you pass, you pass. If you don't, you don't. Nobody paid attention to me. I'd bring the report card home, and then I'd get some coaching.
Yep.
It's about as nice as I can say it. Some coaching as to how things could be better.
Now, without the microphones rolling, that is not the term you use.
That is not the term I would use. No. Some loudness would be encouraged.
Loudness would ensue.
Yeah, loudness would ensue on that.
No, we're really lucky. All three of our boys really, I think, manage their lives pretty well. We get the occasional, I forgot my jersey and it's game day, or
I
missed the bus, or Sam has already told me exactly what I'm supposed to do if he ever forgets his saxophone, and I'm like, well, just don't forget it. And I don't need to run from work. It will be tempting, and you'll probably have to hold me down, but you know what? No, you might get a little write-up on your little discipline sheet or whatever.
No, Jill, I know you're running home and taking that saxophone to the middle school.
I just gave a whole lecture about accountability, so that would be very two-sided of me.
It's very two-sided. It'd be very hypocrisy is the right word I'm looking for.
Yes, I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah.
True. I really am when it comes to my son.
No, you're getting in the car. If the 10-year-old forgot lunch, you would go home and whip something up and run it to him really quick.
Lunch is different than a saxophone.
No, it's the same thing.
No, lunch is sustenance. A saxophone is a grade or getting like a demerit. It is a little different.
A demerit.
Yeah, that's a word that all the kids. I don't know where that came from. Sometimes I'm 90.
That's a good one. Yeah. So anyway, going back to the county fair, we did have a great time. I think there's going to be some changes next year when we go. I think we will do it live from there.
I think we're going to get that pub again for work. I want to throw a party that involves us getting that pub.
That pub is amazing.
There's like 3 different versions of it.
3 or 4, and then all of them had bars in them, and
Little tables and stools, and
it was fun. We had a lot of people that came by and just like hung out and talked to us for a while too. So that was fun. I think that, I think next year we'll do it, but we'll also get that part of the problem that we had is that we didn't have any speakers, so nobody could hear us.
yeah, they didn't know what was happening.
So I think we'll make that change for next year.
We just looked like schizophrenic people standing there talking to ourselves.
Yeah. The fair is all about like interaction.
Yep.
And I think that would have been better. I was trying to put this together like the night before.
Yeah.
And I have everything. I've got everything for like the speakers and all that kind of stuff, so people could have heard it, but we just didn't have it with. It seemed to be a little bit too much. So then I was trying to do production work, and I'm trying to do, getting guests put together and all that kind of stuff. And, I honestly thought that we would be able to put this thing together and it would last like an hour, something like that. And it just didn't. So I think in my mind, I was thinking that I was panicking like, oh, we got to go an hour. And we were at like 15 minutes. And I'm like, that could have been good enough.
No, and we say that every time. Like, wouldn't it be fun to just do maybe this will be the quick 20-minute podcast, and then we do it, and you're like, 58 minutes, and I'm like, again, really?
Yep. Okay, so we got to touch on something here, and it's a big one. We mentioned it in the previous podcast prior to the county fair.
We told everyone that we were going to install something in our home and report back.
So we installed a bidet.
We did.
In the house.
And I would just like to ask a clarifying question about said bidet.
Yeah.
Who was the first person brave enough to actually turn that sucker on while sitting there?
No, it was absolutely. I was going to give you credit because you are the one that sat down. You're like, here we go. And what was your reaction?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
you jumped.
Sorry if that was loud. It shoots you like nothing you're used to in the United States because we are not a bidet country.
I think those that are used to it or have used it before, it's not such a big deal.
No.
But when you have something shoot you there,
it's alarming.
And it's cool water. I mean, you can buy them that has warm, but I'm not paying the extra $20 for warm water. We
can rough it.
There's a lot of questions with it still. I mean,
we don't have it all figured out.
I don't think we have it completely figured out yet. I've talked to a couple of friends that have also installed them in their house.
Yep.
They have some of the same results, for lack of a better word, than we do, or as we do. One has different results than we do, but this person also has an oval toilet instead of a circle one.
Yeah, so
then they can move around a little bit.
Hits a little. He also has said he'll just turn that sucker on and watch some TikToks and let it just go for 3 to 5 minutes. And that's not quite the approach that I have taken.
That's not the approach I've taken.
I've got my hand on that on-off switch the entire time, and I turn it off before my brain even has a chance to really send a signal. I'm like, on, hey, how about off now? So I don't know that it's super effective for me because I'm trigger happy at turning it off.
Yeah. I had a friend that said that they started using it and they clench awfully hard. Yep. I don't think you're supposed to clench. I think you're supposed to.
Yeah, but I don't know. Are you really just supposed to let things go right in there?
I think it's supposed to go right in there.
But why?
I don't know.
We have so many more questions than answers. So again, friends.
I mean, put one in if you want to.
And give us your feedback.
I'm curious. Like, you put it in, your toilet seat's going to be leaning forward a little bit.
So that it's
up a little bit. So there's that. And then, I think the toilet that we have it on has it's a taller toilet.
Yeah.
So my feet are already almost dangling, and now you do this, and it changes the trajectory of everything. So, for lack of a better word, I know people are going to be super excited for us to be talking about this particular topic, but inquiring minds have asked me.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, so many countries use these. It's just commonplace.
Yeah. We just haven't gotten used to it over here for some reason. We have a fascination with toilet paper, although that might solve our situation. And never mind, we'll leave that for later. Save that for later. So anyway, the thoughts on the bidet so far on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say?
I've turned it on once.
Since then?
Yeah.
Really?
No, maybe more.
I use it every time. So
my natural habits
Yeah.
don't lend themselves to me always being upstairs in our room, accessible to our bathroom, right? Like that isn't generally where my body decides to do this on a daily basis.
My body decides to do this at work for some reason.
About an hour in.
Yeah, about an hour in.
Yep.
I don't know why it is, but that's what happens.
I could get up earlier, but we all know how I feel about that.
Do you feel like that's TMI? Like, did we just
can we rewind a little bit?
No, we're going to.
Shoot.
If we had to let the county fair podcast buck into live public space, we're letting this one go too. So y'all know when we go to the bathroom. So there you go. How about that?
How about that?
How about that? So there's that. So the bidet on a scale of 1 to 5 for me is probably a 6 right now, but I'm
You
learning.
like it that much?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 5.
Oh no, scale 1 to 10. Sorry, Jesus.
I'm like, wow, on a scale of 1 to 5, it's a 32. That's I didn't know you liked it that much.
I mean, it's precious.
I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at like a 4 or a 5. I'm not completely sold, but I'm not very practiced.
Scale of 1 to 10, I'll go with a 6 for right now.
Yep.
And then I'm just going to say that I'm learning.
I think that's fair.
I'm going to give this elongated situation.
Toilet seat.
Well, not the elongated toilet seat, but we did go buy a different toilet seat because I think we had to replace it when we put this on there. So I think the hole was smaller.
And I think we got a child size.
Something, because it's lack of a better word, it's tight.
I was going to say the same thing, which I feel appropriate terminology for the conversation of a bidet. Because I clench as well. We should move on. I can feel my cheeks getting hot, and I'm really hoping my mom doesn't listen to this episode.
Or her friends, the book club.
Oh, no.
The book club.
You met book club.
I met part of the book club the other day.
Yeah. Both.
So it leads us into the next story, which is I was going to have the music all queued up, and it'd be like, go into the chapel and we're gonna get married. So big news out of the podcast department, breaking news.
We're engaged.
Yeah, we got engaged a couple of weeks ago. It's probably 3 weeks ago.
I'd say.
Ish.
Maybe more.
It might even be a month. Jesus.
Or more.
God, does time go by that fast?
Monday is Halloween. Like, there goes October.
Okay, so we were in the North Shore a month ago.
Yep.
At least a month ago.
Yep.
We went, so here's how the story goes. So buckle in for a little short story.
Mm-hmm. I think it was quite a day for poor Roman.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take this back just a little bit farther. One of the things about asking somebody to marry you and all this kind of stuff, like there's the, it's coming, you've gone to, buy rings and all this kind of stuff. And then there's the other side, which is, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised, right? And you see being on Facebook nowadays, you see the plethora of it. You see both sides. You see people who absolutely knew the ring was coming, and they go, oh, and they pretend that it's a surprise.
Yep.
And then there's the ones who are actually surprised. And I wanted to be actually surprised. I'm wearing like
loud clothes.
I can hear it through the headphones. Anyway, I digress. So I wanted to be the surprise version for you.
Yep.
I've been married before, you haven't. And I just thought that this would be kind of a fun way to do it, but I didn't know her ring size. So kind of casually, I'm like, what if I want to buy you jewelry and whatever, maybe it'd be good to know the ring size. So we've had this ongoing joke about, she was going to go and get her ring size done and all this kind of stuff. And then she was going to put it in a drawer so that someday down the road, when I decided that I was going to do this, I would have access to it. Well, I saw it there the very first time I opened up the drawer and saw it in there. And I thought, okay, there it is. I took a picture of it, shut the drawer. And then I would tell her, I would kind of like tease you a little bit, saying, I didn't see any ring size in there at all. And you'd be like, it is in there. I promise you it's in there. I'm like, I didn't see anything. So this call goes all the way back to like December of last year.
Yep.
At least December of last year. So I went in, I visited with a jeweler, kind of found out how this works. Like, how do you do this? How do people like propose without like knowing the ring size or knowing what they want per se.
It's a big investment.
It's a big investment.
You don't want to buy something that she doesn't like, and she doesn't
Correct.
want to say, I don't like it. Can we return it for something different? Like, nobody wants any of those scenarios.
Right. So in this particular, we went to BG Jewelers downtown, Hutchinson. That's where I went, and talked to him, and he was like, so what you do is you pick out the stone, we put it in a temporary setting, and then you have the ring and you can go do whatever you want. But we need to know her ring size. So, okay, if I figure this out, I'll figure this out. So you went around, you got your ring sized a couple of times, and you put it in there anyway. So then flash forward to sometime in late July, early August, sometime. I went down to the jeweler, and he put it together for me, and I had it.
Yep.
And I had it here in my bag, sitting next to, in our office where we're recording this. It was literally right here by your feet the whole time. So she didn't know it existed or anything. And I'm like, we had been talking about going on vacation and all this kind of stuff. And we just planned, screw it. We're going up. We've got a bye week in the football schedule. So we're going to go. So we took off and I made the reservations. We're going. And I called you up and I said, take these days off. We're going. And you were excited we were going on vacation.
Yes.
My mom would be like, what happens to people on the North Shore, don't you? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, people get engaged up there. I'm like, oh my gosh, come on. The whole time that was my plan, but I had to throw people off because if too many people found out, they would tell you. And it was just two.
Inadvertently, they would.
Literally 2 people knew before I went. And one needed to know. The other one kind of peeled it out of me. But and it was the day before I left, so I knew I was safe.
Yep.
So anyway, we go to the North Shore, and we go on vacation. We're having fun. Now, my entire plan was 2 years previously, we were at, and I'm going to butcher this name. I say Tetagooch. Other people say Tetaguchi, whatever. It's Tetagooch State Park.
It's a lot of consonants.
Yeah, about an hour or so north of Duluth. And we had been there 2 years ago. And we went all the way down. We'd hiked all the way back, mile and a half back, something like that. And we'd gone down all these big stairs, and we spent some time underneath the waterfall down there, down at the bottom of the waterfall. And we had a long conversation there about all sorts of things, how we wanted to bring our kids back and let them go swimming there and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, this is really cool. We just kind of had a core memory there. Yep. So in my mind, I'm like, this is where we're going to do this. We're going to have this. I'm going to do this below there. What I had forgotten is that in early June, they had a lot of rain up there, May, June, whatever, and washed out bridges, washed out trails, did all this stuff. So now we hike. First of all, we drive in there. I got to go back just a little bit.
Oh, yeah. All the weddings.
Yeah, I know. So we get there the very first day. We stayed at Larsmont Cottages, just outside of Two Harbors. And that first night we were there, there was a wedding there.
There was a wedding there.
Wedding and wedding reception. I think it was Thursday night, I think. So I'm like, of course, there's a wedding here. And, we kind of casually joked about it, whatever. Your friend texted you and was like, are you going to do it? Or is this going to happen here? What's this? Kind of teasing us a little bit. And I'm like.
You even had a friend comment on a picture like, oh, looks like a romantic place to ask a big question.
And in every case, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, everybody shut up. Stop, because you still had no idea as far as I knew. And so we take off. Very first day we're up there, we go up to the lighthouse. Split Rock.
It was kind of rainy, so we decided not to do all the big hiking that day.
Right.
We just kind of did some little hiking and sightseeing. Didn't want to get back on some trails and have it start to pour and be 2 miles from our car. And
So because it was rainy, I left my camera bag, which had the ring in it, in the car. Which is probably stupid looking back on it, but whatever. I could have had all that stuff taken out, whatever. But it wasn't like it was a lot of camera gear. It was like my video camera, my GoPros, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I had those things with, and then the ring was in there. And we get down to the lighthouse, and there is nobody there. Nobody.
No.
And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, damn it, you could have done this right here. This would have been amazing.
Perfect day for it. I mean,
waves are crashing over our heads.
We played with those, and by played with the waves, took photos and watched them. And wasn't that the place where the big, huge one came in and rained down on us and got soaking wet? And it was just, it was cool. We stayed there for a long time.
A long time. We could have stayed there for a lot longer too. If I would have had that ring with me.
Yep.
and not have been stupid.
Well, you didn't know.
I know, but I should have. Like, I should have just had it with me. So anyway, so then flash forward next day. And we get up and it's pouring out.
Yep.
So we look at the forecast, whatever. And I see that it's going to stop raining, but it's going to be a couple of hours. So we get in the car, we drive all the way up to Lutzen.
Yep.
We stopped at Teddegooch first, but it was still raining. I'm like, it looks like another hour. This gives us time to go up to Lutzen, turn around, come back. That'll be about an hour and a half, 2 hours. By the time we get back, it should be done raining, so we'll be able to do this hike. So we drive all the way up to Lutzen and just do a quick drive through, whatever. On the way back, we stop at Temperance.
Yep.
And now I have my camera bag with me, and I have the ring with me. And this whole time I'm thinking, where can we do this? Where can we do this? But we didn't really have like a core memory at Temperance.
No.
We'd stopped there and we had walked back there, but we didn't have a core memory there. So in my mind, I'm like, this isn't really going to work here. So let's just, and there's people everywhere. And I thought this is just not a great place. It's probably great for some people, but in this moment, it wasn't. So up to the car we go. And there's a wedding happening across the street.
Yeah. Our third
This is
wedding.
second one at this point. This is the second one.
Oh, yeah,
because
you're
the third
right.
one happened when we got to Teddegooch. So we get to Teddegooch this day. Now we see our second wedding of the day, third wedding in a row. And you're kind of joking, the universe is trying to tell us something. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, everybody knows. So we hike all the way up.
Yep.
We drive up and then we hike all the way up to the waterfall. And the trails are washed out. The bridge is washed out. So we can't
blocked
even
off for safety.
we can't even get down to where we were.
Nope.
So now I've made you hike all the way back there to this thing, and I'm thinking, this is dumb. This isn't going to happen. So now in my mind,
I'm thinking, what a lovely time hiking
Yeah.
around, right?
In my mind, I'm like running through like, okay, next stop could be. So I'm going with, this was plan A.
Yep.
Plan B would have been the day before at the lighthouse.
Yep.
Plan C is now going to be the Black Sand Beach.
Yep.
In Silver Bay. So in the car we go, and we go down to Silver Bay. We get down there, we walk around, and there's people on the beach, but not in the area that we are in.
No, very spread out. We walked all the way kind of over to one side. There weren't people there.
Mm-hmm.
We're skipping rocks and
Yep. So we're skipping rocks, we're having fun, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, get your GoPro set up because you want to get this on video. You want to at least get this video, a picture, whatever, of this thing getting done. So I set all of this up, and just as I hit record, a gaggle of
literally a gaggle.
of scrapbooking moms come bounding down over the hill. Now, you have to paint the picture in your mind. They've got the big chunky scarves.
They got Starbucks.
Caribou.
Little
all
caribou of their
cups, all of them.
shirts say something.
Yeah, they all have,
It's wine time. Live, laugh, love. Right?
All of it.
Stickers are my life.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're being a little stereotypical,
it's
but
very
not much
close.
actually.
Very close, yeah. So all of this is happening, and they've got the big old boots on everything, and they can't walk in any of the stones. So it's a lot
Because the
of
stones are tricky to walk on, but wear tennis shoes, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So anyway,
be normal.
So I'm like thinking to myself, as they come bounding down, I'm like, okay, do this right now. And then
Bounding down.
and also in my mind, I'm like, you can't do this right now. These moms are going to lose their absolute shit if this happens in front of them.
They're going to
So you can't do
scream
it.
and they're going to congratulate us, and we don't know who any of these
And then they
people
come
are.
down and they stop 2 feet from us.
Literally like we were part of the same group.
Yeah, and then they get their picture taken in front of the rocks with their caribous and whatever, and I pack up everything. I'm like so pissed. I'm like, God dang it, this isn't going to work. So I've been trying to do this since this morning, and now we're at like 2:00 in the afternoon.
No,
and we're
and
still
all
screwing
of the
around with
sudden,
this.
out of nowhere, at first you look up and you're like, seriously? And I turn on, and here come all these women bounding. Next thing I know, he's packing everything up and he's like, we're leaving. And literally, this is what I thought to myself. Maybe it's time for a little snack or something. Like, I don't know why maybe we need to stop at a brewery and just kind of decompress, or I don't know what. No idea that this is like his fourth time trying to propose.
Yeah. So then we're driving along, and I'm thinking, okay, so the next place that you're going to do this is you're just going to do it at the hotel or at the resort. So we just do it there. Just have it in your mind you're going to do that. And as we're driving down, the sun kind of peeks out for a second, and it lights up this beach. And I think it's called Ione's Beach or Iono's Beach or whatever it is. And it lights it up, and I'm like pulling over. So I found a rest stop. We pulled over, and there's like 5 cars there.
Yep.
I'm like, perfect. There's not going to be anybody here. We get out of the car. We walk back to the beach. sure as hell there's 100 people there.
Yep.
I'm like, where in the hell are all these people coming from?
I mean, there's 12, but I get what you mean. Your mindset was very like
Yeah.
specific on what you wanted. So it looked
Yep.
like 100 people.
So then, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many people here. And I'm sure in your mind, you're like, seriously? There's nobody here.
Again, do I have a piece of gum in my
Yeah.
pocket I can give you? Like
So
what?
as we're getting ready to walk back to the car, I see a little dirt path that kind of goes up the hill.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, we're going up here. So we just kind of hike back. And I'm thinking there's not going to be anybody back here because we're literally kind of walking. It's like a deer trail.
Yeah.
We're walking with like weeds and grass hitting us and all this kind of stuff. So it's not like a groomed trail.
But again, so I've told this story and I've had friends be like, well, you must have known. And I'm like, no, this is how we roll on vacation. We see a little trail. We see where it leads. We see a tiny parking lot. We park there and walk around. Like, you're very adventurous and I'm up for whatever. So everybody's like, how did you not know? I'm like, this is just kind of how we roll when we're on vacation in Duluth. We just check stuff out.
So we get up there to this thing, and we're a couple of stories above the water at this point, and the water's
It's like one of those
crashing
rock
below us
cliffs.
and whatever.
Cliff is an extreme word, but you get the idea of what it is.
So the water's crashing below us. There's a couple that's up there, and we kind of hop around a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, let's go over here and just see what looks over here. And you can kind of see this back bay area. And as I'm looking back there, I'm like, there's 8 people down there, but they're like half a mile away. So I'm like, they're not going to care, and they won't see us. They won't find us.
Right.
So this has to be it. This has to be where it's going to happen because I don't think there's going to be another chance.
Yep.
Other than the resort. So I put the camera bag down. I get it out. Now I've had this ring in my pocket once before. I had it in my pocket.
You did?
at Black Sand Beach. I had it in my pocket. Everything was ready to happen at Black Sand Beach. So now I got to try and hide it back in my bag. And my mind, I'm like, I hope she thinks this is a battery, like that I'm putting in and out of these bags and that I'm messing around with it. So you go over there and you kind of get stood up on this, like standing on the side of this cliff or whatever. And I get the bag set up and I get the GoPro set and take my camera and my phone and I press play or record. And when I hit record, I didn't see my camera turn just a little bit.
Okay.
So it only had you in the shot. It didn't have me in the shot at all, which ended up being fine too. But hi, we're live here, so we can't. Hi, okay. So
That was the
16-year-old.
child that we assumed we would shoo away.
Yep. So anyway, I set it all up. I hit record. The camera turns a little bit on me, and I'm like, it is what it is. And we went down, and I don't think you knew that it was still happening at that moment.
No, and again, now people have seen the photos and the video of it happening.
Yep.
And everyone is like, well, who was there with you? And I'm like, no one. And they're like, well, then you knew because he set up the video stuff. But the amazing thing about Roman being such a photographer and videographer is he sets this stuff up all the time. And it's not a big production. It takes you a couple minutes. You pop it up, you take some video, then you take a video at the new place, then you take some cute pictures of us, and then you come home and you edit this amazing 3-minute synopsis of our trip. I literally am not thinking a thing of it because you're like, hey, we need some video of us. Go stand over there so I can see the shadows. I don't even know if that's what you said, but you say that to me a lot. So in my head, that's what you said. Like,
I told you to go stand over there so we can get some video
stand there so I can
ourselves.
see,
Yep.
and then we just need we need a photo of like us. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You've taken a lot of nature photos. We should get us in there a little bit. And still not thinking anything.
Yeah. So then, it all kind of culminates, and I kind of get up next to you. I say a couple things to you.
Yeah.
And then, it happens. So
Got down on one knee.
I got down on one knee and did the whole bit. And I remember looking over your shoulder and I saw the 4 or 5 people down over there in the cove, and I'm like, tough shit. This is happening right now. So if you hear a bunch of clapping from behind, big deal. We won't be able to hear it anyway because the waves are still crashing below us.
And I think you made a really good point to me later. You're like, I didn't want some stranger congratulating you. And I would have never thought of that. But I can't tell you how thankful I am that like the moment was completely ours. And I didn't have to hug some strange woman and have the man shake your hand. And like, who are you people? Like, it's our moment. I don't need a stranger congratulating me. I'm happy it just being us. So that was very thoughtful of
So we get back to the car.
Yep.
After doing this, you said yes, which is awesome.
Yep.
I mean, it took you a second.
No, you're like, so is that a yes? I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
after you tackled me to the ground.
I did.
I've shown a couple of people the video, and they're like, oh, this is taking a turn.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah. Anyway, so then we get back to the car. You tell your mom. We get video of your stepdad and your mom playing Hallelujah on the background, so they're excited. They can, wipe their forehead and be like, okay, good.
Yeah, they're finally marrying me off or something.
And then we get back to the resort.
Yep.
And there's another wedding happening. So it was meant to be. And then, of course, we kind of whooped it up at the bar that night. Yeah. And we did go to the brewery. And you told everybody that was around us that you were engaged. I'm engaged. It was kind of fun.
And I will tell you what was cool about it. So we saw 2 weddings at the resort, the first night we got there and then the night we got engaged. And then we saw 2 weddings, like essentially kind of in the woods. Mm-hmm. And we got a chance to talk to the bride and the groom when we got back to Larsmont the day you proposed. They came up to the bar for a drink and we congratulated them and we told them we were engaged, and they were the nicest couple.
Yeah, they were.
They were genuine. Now, we had been observing some weddings, and you observe things that may or may not be you in your mind. You create, right? And the first wedding, I was like, well, the bride and groom are not talking to each other at all. And I get it. You're pulled in directions.
Yep.
And the second wedding, we saw everybody getting together, and the girls were all very prim and proper, and they kind of kept looking at the guys, and the guys were off to the side just slamming beer. And I'm like, again, I don't know. And then the wedding we see at our resort the night, the family was nice. The best man or one of the groomsmen came up and probably gave us one of the most genuine congratulations. Yeah. And that was cool to me because I'm like, oh, this couple seems like they are possibly as in love as we are.
Yeah.
It just felt like that felt like the right wedding of the weekend, oddly enough. And I realize I'm passing judgment, but you watch people, you observe, and you make stories up in your head. That's what you do.
And now you go down the journey of planning a wedding, and we went from, we're not going to have a big wedding. We're not going to have to a small wedding. And then now we're not going to have a small wedding. We're going to have something in between.
Yep.
And we were going to get married outside, and this very small thing. And now it seems to be fairly decent sized.
Outside, but inside. And
yeah. So we're kind of finding our way through this thing. I think younger couples may have this a little bit easier because they've been planning on this their entire life, or have been kind of coaching this out. And since they've been looking at rings, they've been starting to plan. Yep. So everything was in place. We even had some friends 2 years ago tell us, 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was, that they had already kind of planned. They've had wedding meetings and everything already, but they haven't even proposed yet.
Oh, so that's right.
Yeah. So I think from our standpoint, we're just coming to it going, we can't even revel in it right now. We just have to move on to the next.
We have to move on to the next step.
So we have to start planning this thing. So
and for me as a bride, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of back and forth for me, right? I'm 45 years old. It doesn't need to be some production, but I've also never been married, right. And I want my friends and family there, and I want to wear a dress. But do we register? We have most of what we need. Although we could get some.
There's a lot of questions, I think, that are just out there.
There's a lot of questions.
What do you do?
And what's appropriate? What's socially appropriate for a wedding for people our age? But I will tell you that every single person that I run that question by, including 2 very good friends of mine who are event coordinators, and weddings are kind of one of they say, stop worrying about what you think is appropriate or what the rest of the world wants. Do the wedding you want. And so I think we're going to do the wedding that I want. My friends, my family, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, a white dress. Is it going to be no? But I think even if I got married when I was 22, it would be like this. I'm not a frilly, girly girl.
Right.
But I want to have a little bit of a party to celebrate the fact that I'm marrying you.
Right. So we've got the date set. We've got the location set. We've got the person who's going to do the officiate the wedding.
We've got the photographer
set up. So we're making progress.
I feel like it.
We just need to send out some save the dates and stuff like that to some friends and stuff.
Yeah, I got to start reaching out for addresses. I have a lot, but
yeah. There's just a lot of things going on.
We're going to have engagement photos taken this weekend, so then we can put together one of those little postcards of save the date.
Right. Yeah. So we're making progress.
I
think
feel
we're doing
good.
decent.
I think for the first couple weeks there, you were a little worried that it was never going to happen because you'd kind of casually, not that you expect me to do it all, but I
No.
also don't think you don't want to step on my toes.
Well, yeah.
And you're like, so have you thought about this? And I'm like, nope. And one evening, I think you were like mildly concerned and mildly frustrated. And you're like, I mean, what I don't want from this, Jill, is for you to like either stress about the details so much that you don't even want to marry me or procrastinate yourself out of ever getting married. Like
Right.
I don't, and yeah. So
Right.
we decided to go with like a venue, so to speak, so that there's a whole laundry list of details that I
Yeah.
don't have to manage.
Correct.
And that helps ease my
Immensely.
mind
Yeah.
tremendously.
So we're on our way
Yeah, we're
to
getting
getting
there.
married.
We're going to get married.
I know it's gonna be super fun, right?
I can't wait.
I know. I can't wait to be married to my
But
best friend.
sooner than married
Yeah.
is the next holiday.
Which one would that be?
Halloween.
Halloween. Do you have a favorite candy? for
Yeah,
Halloween?
so I love Almond Joy.
Yep.
But I was at a meeting the other day and I had a candy bar that I haven't had in years because like I never see them in the store and it was just a little mini one, 100 grand, 1,000 grand. I
Oh.
can't remember.
Yeah.
It's nougaty and caramely and crunchy and chocolatey and it's delicious. But yeah, and then Reese's peanut butter cups and Snickers. I like candy.
Yeah. So I was telling somebody earlier. I said I have a candy that I really like that everybody else hates, and that's candy corn.
Oh,
I will eat
yeah.
an entire damn bag of candy corn. If you throw some peanuts in it, it's on like Donkey Kong. I'll eat the whole thing.
I like candy corn too.
So
So
hey,
does
how about
our
that?
youngest.
Yeah, how about that? So we've got that in common too. I look at that. Did you have a favorite costume growing up? I remember the masks that we
Oh,
used
they
to
were
wear.
plastic.
Yeah, and they would cut my lips. It was
Oh,
ridiculous.
they were horrible.
hard to breathe out of. I think I
I-
was Batman once.
Every young boy was.
It's a bad man.
So I don't remember what my costumes were when I was little.
Okay.
I have memories of those horrible plastic masks.
Yeah.
When my memories start to pop up for Halloween, we were now living in town, so I had friends. And my girlfriends and I probably spent 4 consecutive years all dressed as like 80s pop star singers,
Awesome.
right? You would wear as much neon colors as you could, rat your hair up as high as you could. It was an excuse to put on a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite memory of Halloween, and it is a top 5 core memory from my childhood, is my mom would throw Halloween parties. And
Fun.
when I say a Halloween party, I don't mean like a big party. If I invited 3 friends, I invited 3 friends. If I invited 8 friends, I invited 8. But she would set the table and everything was Halloween themed. I think we would have spaghetti. I think she kind of wanted to fill our bellies with something warm before we went out trick-or-treating. And I mean, she treated us at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old like we were the dinner party, because my parents loved
Yeah.
to throw dinner parties.
Yep.
And would, the table was always set just perfectly. My parents are very good at entertaining, but it was like that time that my friends and I were the dinner party, and we would laugh, and we've got pictures of us sitting there and with the big hair, and then we'd go trick-or-treating, and I don't know.
Super fun.
Fall is my favorite time of year.
Fall is fantastic.
Halloween has always been one of my favorite holidays.
Yeah. I remember getting dressed up and going out with friends. We
Yep.
used to do the JC, like run around town,
Yep.
the bar crawl or whatever you would call it.
Yeah.
That was super fun. I wish they still did that or had some version of it. That was fun. I might be on the older side of being able to do that, but it was always fun to go see people be dressed up and all that kind of stuff. So we might do that the next couple nights, is run out and see how people are, what kind of costumes we see.
Yeah. So we
be
were
fun.
talking about this before we did the podcast. I don't know that we will dress up this year. Neither of us have a costume. So,
No.
maybe next year I'll wear my dress, right? I mean, I'll wear my wedding dress, right? But my idea of going out for Halloween involves showing up at the bar downtown where the younger kids are known for going.
Yep.
And they've got great food. We eat supper
Yep,
there
we
a
do.
lot.
Yep.
And having a late supper. So getting there, enjoying a beer, ordering our food, and then just slowly kind of, having a beer or a drink as we watch all the 20-somethings start
chaos.
to come in.
Yeah, all the chaos.
All the chaos and all the costumes and all the shenanigans, and just sit there until we have to go to bed, which is, 11:30, and that would be a really late night for us.
Yeah.
And not drink or not get all partied
tooted,
up
yeah.
and not, but just watch, and it is great fun.
Tell you what, young kids have all the fun, but
they
it'd
do.
be fun to come in and just hang out and be a fly on the wall a little
Yeah.
bit and see how it goes. So,
And then I can't wait for Halloween night. I think this year I get to hand out candy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think my son will
We're gonna
trick
do
or
it.
treat, but maybe with his dad, and there's a littler one there, so I think he's going to enjoy trick or treating there. So I haven't gotten a hand, and I love all the kids and all their cousins, all the little ones. So I'm excited.
Yep.
Yeah.
It should be a lot of fun. So, well, that's it. We've made it all the way to the end of this particular podcast.
How's your PTSD?
It's
Are you
better.
feeling like you can do more podcasts in the future? Like,
do.
Did this heal you?
This healed me. So we're on our way. We're on our way. In fact, we've got our next one is coming up in a couple weeks here. It might be next week, actually. We're going to be interviewing and talking with Mary Hodson from the Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
There are a lot of things coming up. Taste of Hutchinson, we want to talk about that. Or Taste of Holidays a little bit. We want to talk about that. They're doing some new initiatives with like daycare in town. We want to learn about that. So
Small
there's
Business Saturday.
Yeah, Small Business Saturday, which we might go live from. So we might try it again.
Yeah, tune in for that.
Yeah,
and
tune
then
in
I
for
think in
that.
a few weeks we've got someone from the Hutchinson Health Foundation possibly
Hopefully,
coming.
crossing our fingers.
Come
She
in
says
to
yes.
talk. They're raising money for an e-NICU. You can learn more all about that. Did I say that right?
Yep, it's an e-NICU. Yep.
Nice. So
So
yeah.
with that, we'll see you guys all really, really soon.